From the Carabao Cup fixture last night, there's a lot to talk about regarding blank game weeks and regarding a potential Alexander Isak injury. So it's not looking good in game week 29, but we're going to be going through what's happened with Alexander Isak, what could potentially happen in future and the plans with him. And as well as that, the blank game week in 29 we're going to be talking about, as a lot of the games that happened yesterday, or the game that happened yesterday and the game that's happening today, does massively affect that blank game week 29. So we're going to be talking about my plans going into blank game week 29 and my future plans of my team. If you're a fan of FPL content and you're not subscribed to this channel, what are you doing? Hit subscribe down below on the channel, and please do drop a like as well if you do go on to enjoy the video. So we'll start off with Alexander Isak. So he did play 65 minutes yesterday. He got a goal and he also got, well, an FPL assist as well. And Eddie Howe had a lot to say about Alexander Isak after the match in his press conference. He said that Alex was feeling his hamstring a little bit, as well as he said Sven Botman was feeling his groin. He said we had a couple of other players struggling, and he said he was delighted with how Isak performed. He took his goal really well, and in the second half he knew that they needed to manage him. He's so important to Newcastle and they can't afford to lose him and they can't risk losing him. So he said hopefully he is okay. And he also said as well that Alexander Isak was feeling a bit stiff in his hamstring, which isn't ideal. He's had a hamstring injury before, and he is quite an injury-prone player, Isak is. He seems to get injured quite a bit, and it's not good with it being his hamstring. If it was just a knock and he got substituted, you wouldn't think it's too bad. But the fact that you hear it's a hamstring injury is a little bit of a cause for concern. But we are in luck, because we will be able to find out whether or not he will be fine, hopefully, by the time it gets to the next game, because there still is a whole week until Newcastle play Wolves next week, and a lot of people are considering actually using the captaincy on Alexander Isak. But the reason why we should be able to find out more information is because obviously there is the FA Cup fixtures that do take place this weekend, and Newcastle do face Bromley. So chances are Isak, even if he was 100% fit, he wouldn't be starting. But we need to be looking out on the bench if Isak is on the bench or not. If he's not in the squad at all, I do think it is potentially a cause for concern, because I think Newcastle, well, I guess you have to see who else is on the bench. You'd imagine most of Newcastle's starting players will be benched. You'd imagine Gordon will be on the bench. You would hope Isak will be on the bench. Then Jacob Murphy, Lewis Hall. You hope these players would probably get rested against Bromley, because it is, what you'd say on paper, is quite an easy fixture for Newcastle going into that game against Bromley. And as I say, then it's still a full week until Newcastle do play Wolves in 7:30. And we'll be able to get another press conference from Eddie Howe before the match. And as well as that, there'll be training pictures released as well, where hopefully everything will be fine and we'll see Alexander Isak. As for how these Carabao Cup games could affect things going forward, as I said before at the start of the video, the blank game at 29 does involve these Carabao Cup fixtures, so whoever wins the Carabao Cup semi-final games will then blank in game week 29, which obviously Newcastle winning 2-0 last night and going now to St James's Park with a 2-0 lead. It really does look like Newcastle, they are in absolute ascendancy and they should really be going through to the Carabao Cup final, you think, but obviously you never know. But looking at Newcastle in game week 29, they do play Crystal Palace, and that would put that as a blank game week, and it will go into a double game week in game week 33, I believe. And with Arsenal, who will have to wait and see if they can turn it around or not. If they do turn it around, they play Chelsea in game week 29. That game would go towards a blank game week, and then they would double in 33. But just looking at it, you would expect Newcastle to get through this game now, and it should really be a blank game week of Newcastle versus Crystal Palace. That game will get moved to game week 33. As for the game tonight, it is, well, at the time of recording this video, the game hasn't been played. It is Liverpool versus Spurs, and then Liverpool in game week 29 play Aston Villa, and then Fulham in game week 20, and then Spurs in game week 29 play Fulham. So whoever wins out of Liverpool and Spurs in these two matches will then get a blank game week. So it could be very interesting. You could potentially get a lot, or you could at least get 2 double game weeks at a minimum for Mohamed Salah. Obviously, that game against Everton has already been postponed, and it looks like it's going to be put in for either game week 24 or 25. So there's a perfect opportunity to use your triple captain on Mo Salah if you haven't already used it. But then if Liverpool do knock out Spurs in the Carabao Cup, which, to be honest, Liverpool will be the favourites over the 2 legs for that game, because Liverpool have been so good this season, you will then probably have another opportunity in game week 33 to triple captain Mohamed Salah yet again. So if you haven't used your triple captaincy chip, you're sat looking very, very good right now, due to the fact that you've got 2 double game weeks of Mohamed Salah. And the way that he's playing right now, he could get a great triple captaincy score in 1 game week. Imagine 2 matches of Mohamed Salah. Like, that is serious, serious points right there. And with the chip strategy going forward, it is very interesting. As I say, game week 29 is going to be a blank game week with 2 matches not being played. And it depends on what you want to do. And it depends, obviously, we're going to know a lot more. We're going to get a lot more answers when we find out who these teams actually are. But assuming it's Newcastle, Crystal Palace also have some very popular assets. You're looking at the likes of Eze, Sarr, Munoz as well. and Mateta as well. There's some decent options for Crystal Palace. You can very easily dead end your team in game week 29. You can pick a lot of Newcastle and Crystal Palace players up until then, and then you can wildcard or free hit them out. So you can wildcard, you can free hit in game week 29 when you've got all them Newcastle players that aren't playing, and then you'll then have them back in game week 30. You could even potentially hit a wildcard after that, but preparing them for the double game week 33. And with the assistant manager chip, it's an interesting one really, because I'm not really too sure personally when the best time is to use it. Because say you do use it in game week 24, say you've already used your triple captaincy chip for me, which I have already personally used my triple captaincy chip. If I say it's a double game week in game week 24 or even game week 25, one of them fixtures for Liverpool is actually against Man City away, which isn't ideal when you're going to be using Arne Slot as your assistant manager for your assistant manager chip. So you could potentially hold off on your assistant manager chip up until game week 33, and there's a lot of teams that are going to double due to the fact of the FA Cup. So that's an interesting thing definitely to keep note of. But I'm not obviously against an Arne Slot assistant manager chip in game week 24 or game week 25 when Liverpool do double. It's just the one downside to that is, as I say, Liverpool do play, I think it's game week 26, they do face Man City away, which obviously City haven't been great this season, but it's not ideal playing against Man City. You'd rather it be up against an easier team, but you do get that double game week out of Arne Slot, and then you can also use your other chips later on in the season. And obviously you still have chips like your bench boost as well, which you might want to use your bench boost on a double game week as well as a double game week 33. You might want to use your bench boost then. So there's plenty of things that you can do. There's plenty of ways around things, but we need to wait and see who's going to get through in the Carabao Cup, and we'll have a lot more answers there. And as well as that, we'll see when that Liverpool double game week does get put in it. As I say, for Everton, it should be in game week 24 or game week 25. But then if Liverpool do go through in the Carabao Cup, definitely brings the question is, do you triple captain Salah in the second double game week, or do you triple captain him in the first double game week? But let me know what your plans are in the comment section down below. Thank you very much for watching this video. Drop a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe to the channel if you are new around here. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.